Hey, One World Entertainment, and it looks like one Marvel character won't be appearing in Avengers Doomsday, and that character is none other than Doctor Strange, who was going to have a massive role to play when Doomsday was originally the Kang dynasty, but seeing as it's no longer that, well, Benedict Cumberbatch has let it slip that he will not be appearing in Doomsday. However, he also says he will have a significant part in Secret Wars. So this is interesting, and the reasoning behind all of this change is also interesting, and we are going to take a look at this. Now, a lot of this comes from Variety. He did an interview with Variety, and the way it's said isn't Cumberbatch fully saying it. It's basically the person who's interviewing him saying it. Now, what I mean by that is the wording is the guy who interviewed him writing it out, what Cumberbatch said to him in his interview. I just want to make that clear, because when we read the parts that are what Cumberbatch is saying, it's also that guy saying, he said to me, basically, kind of. So the first time I looked over this, it was a bit confusing. I was like, wait a minute, what way is this written? And then you realize, oh, it's that way. So just to warn you when we get to that part. But just before we dive into this, I will ask, because yes, we have to every now and again, if you don't mind hitting the sub button, the like button, the share button, join the channel, help the channel grow. It's been going great, but every time YouTube does updates and stuff, the channels always slow down. Every channel, not just mine, every channel slows down and sometimes kind of gets hidden a bit. But the more you guys watch and the more you sub, the channel grows. YouTube pushes the channel a bit more, so it really does help the channel. It really does. So if you're new to the channel, welcome and thanks for being here. You might enjoy what you hear, you mightn't enjoy what you hear. Either way, we're all in this together, for better or worse. So hit the sub button. Let's do it. And with that, let's dive into this, because we ain't getting Doctor Strange in Doomsday. So it says, in a turn of events, it's learned that Benedict Cumberbatch is not part of Avengers Doomsday. The good news, Doctor Strange will have a large role in Avengers Secret Wars. Cumberbatch recently said he was very much looking forward to Avengers next year, but apparently things have changed. While speaking with Variety, Cumberbatch now says Doctor Strange is not in Avengers Doomsday. Now here's the first part, and again, remember, this is the way the guy has been told and what he's saying in his article. So he says, you see, he's just told me Doctor Strange is taking a hiatus in the next Marvel sequel, 2026's Avengers Doomsday. Is that a spoiler? He says, fuck it. Now, the part of the effort is Cumberbatch. So all the rest of it was that guy saying, he was asking like, is this a spoiler? So according to Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange was supposed to be featured in Avengers the Kang Dynasty. However, that movie has been scrapped following the big failure of Quantumania and the controversy surrounding Jonathan Majors. Marvel is now bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to the MCU, but not as Iron Man, as Doctor Doom. So here's the next part that's written. Cumberbatch's absence from Doomsday has to do with the character not aligning with the part of the story. Now again, that part is from the Variety article. So while Benedict Cumberbatch and Doctor Strange won't be in Doomsday, the actor confirms Secret Wars, which gets released a year later. Again, this part comes from the Variety. And though he probably shouldn't be saying this, he also reveals that Doctor Strange is in a lot of Avengers Secret Wars, which will hit theaters in 2027. Cumberbatch continues, again this part is Variety, he's quite central to where things might go, Cumberbatch teases. So rumours have said Doctor Strange 3 is going to happen. The article and Cumberbatch hint and tease that this is indeed the case. And they said, and he hints that the character last seen casting spells in 2022's Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness will appear in a third standalone film. but is hesitant to say too much beyond praising Marvel for being collaborative, which is whatever. So Cumberbatch said, so this is meant to be him now, they are very open to discussing where we go next. Who do you want to write and direct the next one? What part of the comic lore do you want to explore, so that Strange can keep evolving? He's a very rich character to play. He's a complex, contradictory, troubled human who's got these extraordinary abilities. So there's potent stuff to mess about with. So back in December, Cumberbatch also said he is excited for the return of Doctor Strange, which we now know is in Secret Wars. So what he said for that one was, I'm really excited not only to work with the Russo brothers again, but to have Robert Downey Jr. returning as Doctor Doom. I think there's going to be some really cool developments ahead. Now, everything about what he says there, from when he said it, sounds like he was expecting to also be in Doomsday, and that has changed. Now, what's interesting as well is the wording that he says there for moving forward with a third Doctor Strange standalone movie. Because they're saying, oh, he's confirmed that it's happening, and yet he says they are very open to discussing where we go next. So that's not it. We're absolutely moving forward with another one. That is, they're open to the idea. We just kind of have to figure things out. Because Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, although it made $900 and something million at the box office, or somewhere around that, it still actually didn't break even. And if it did, which people try and say it is, I don't think it actually hit the mark because the budget ballooned on that one as well. But if it did, it literally brought in like 5 million. And you're not pumping that type of money into movies to make that much back. So I don't know what they would do with another movie, in a standalone movie. The other issue, of course, as well, is he's not the Sorcerer Supreme. That's the issue a lot of us have with what Marvel have done, is they've no longer made him Sorcerer Supreme. They stripped that away from him after the blip and gave it to Wong. So they keep talking about, oh, the Sorcerer Supreme. It's like, well, Wong, because it's not Doctor Strange, which is stupid. Once he came back, he should have been reinstated as the Sorcerer Supreme, but they ignored that for some reason. The fact that obviously their way to get around the Kang dynasty and all the Kangs was going to very much be used through Doctor Strange by the looks of it. And just, they've treated the character like crap really since the first movie. I loved the first movie. The first movie is great. The second one though, Doctor Strange mum is horrible. And the fact that he doesn't even defeat Scarlet Witch. It's, what was her name? America Chavez. She beats Scarlet Witch, and then Scarlet Witch basically deletes herself. And you're just sitting there going like, wow, this is stupid. And when they're saying who's going to write it and who's going to direct it, well, that's the other issue. Who is going to write it and direct it? Because we know Sam Raimi had very little to actually do in that. Because there was elements of, oh, that's Raimi. But then everything else you could just see was the usual Marvel trope. So you could see where control really was kind of taken away from him. And even he has said that. It's like, oh yeah, there's just so many notes being sent to you. You're just kind of bombarded with, make sure you put this in, do this and do that. So the idea of who's going to direct it and write it, it's like, it really makes no difference because these directors aren't actually really directing these movies. They're basically directed by committee, and they just need a main name there to be the face of someone who directed it, so they can go, oh yeah, it's their film. It's not really, but there they are. They're the ones we can send out to talk. And when it fails, and if it fails, they're the ones we can blame. So that part is a bit, yeah, makes no sense to say, oh, who are we going to get to write it and direct it? As for him going to be in Secret Wars only instead of Doomsday, yeah, it's interesting. When you think of the amount of characters that are going to actually be in not just Doomsday, but Secret Wars, the fact that you're removing Doctor Strange from Doomsday, the issue when they do that is, depending what happens in that movie, you're going to sit there and go, wow, you think that would be a moment they could really use someone like, I don't know, Doctor Strange That's the issue when you start sticking all these characters together, but you start leaving some out. Is like, oh, you literally could have used him right there, but you didn't. We'll wait and see what exactly comes of this and what kind of issues come. Hell, by the time Doomsday comes around, maybe Cumberbatch will be done. He's like, you know what, I'm done with Marvel. I'm out. You wouldn't know. And I doubt we would get a Doctor Strange 3 before, in between those two movies. I think if it happens, it will be well after those movies, which means you're looking at like 2028 to 2029, maybe even 2030, before you possibly get a Doctor Strange 3. We'll wait and see. So, with that, I shall leave it there for this one. You know the drill. We talked about it earlier. Cheers, and I will catch you in the next one.